All right, so we're going to talk about, are we recording? We are. We're going to talk about a histogram. Histogram is like a bar graph, and I'm going to put but, and I'm going to list a bunch of buts, okay? Number one, it's on quantitative data. We have quantitative categories. Remember, a bar graph has qualitative or categorical data, okay? And B, all groups must be equal sizes, okay? Number three, or part C, okay? Equal size categories. Let's see here. The
bars must touch.
The bars must touch. Did I explain this before?
Last time. This is what we ended on last time. We did the 4 points of the histogram.
The bars must touch.
They can't overlap.
They can't overlap. Thank you. You guys have good notes here. Can't overlap. Do I have anything else there?
That's where you ended. So yeah.
That's where I ended. Okay. All right. So that's a good review from last time. So here's what I would like to do. How about, let's collect some data. What's that?
Oh, we were just checking to see if you have. We're good.
You good? Okay, so go ahead and open up Excel if you don't have it already open. Here's what I'd like to do. Oh, you know, I'm going to also add one more thing here. I'm going to have to say use 5 to 7 categories. And here's why I'm going to say that. In our class, we're going to have very small data sets, okay? The 5 to 7 isn't like a real rule, but it is for our class. I'm not going to give you 100,000 pieces of data. If you had 100,000 pieces of data, you'd use a lot more than 5 categories, okay? But for ours, we're just going to use small data sets, and I'm going to say use 5 to 7 categories. So here's what I'd like to do. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to collect some quick data here. And how about, can I ask you all what your shoe size is? Shoe size. Do I need IRB approval for that? Hopefully not. Okay, start with you, Paige. 7. 7.
10.
10. 9.
10 and a half.
10 and a half.
10 and a half.
10 and a half. 8. Over there. 8. 11. 7. 6 and a half. 8 and a half. 7. 9 and 10 and a half. Okay. So we've got here, how many pieces of data? We've got, oh, that's in my way. 16 pieces of data. Now, you don't always have to sort it, but a lot of times it's easier. So here I'm going to go ahead and sort my data. Notice that's not one of my things, okay? Sort your data, okay? So we range from 6.5 to 11, okay? Now let's think about this for a minute. If I go 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, well, that's only 3 categories. Well, maybe we'll just go with 6s, 7s, 8s, 9, 10, 11. That gives us 6 categories. How about that? Okay?
How did you do that? Arrange it? Like
How did I sort it?
Yeah.
Okay. So highlight your data.
Okay.
Click on data, and then if you sort A to Z, it will sort descending, or you could also do descending, but I usually like ascending order. Okay? All right. So maybe this wasn't a good one. It's all right though. Do your groups. So we could have a group of 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, whatever, 10s, and 11s. Okay? Yeah, you could put 66.5 if you wanted. Okay? All right, so now we just need to create a frequency distribution. What is a frequency distribution? We need to start learning names better. Tell me your name.
Colin.
Colin.
Frequency distribution is just a total count.
Total count. Okay, how many 6s do we have? 1. Now, I'm going to show you something. A lot of you are bad counters. I'm a bad counter. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. But here's what I'm going to do. Instead of counting, I'm going to highlight all of my 7s. And if you look down here, here it says count is 4. So you can use that to count for you, and then you won't mess up. So 4. 8s, I have 4. 9s, I have 2. 10s, I have 4. 11s, I have 1. Okay? That makes sense? Now, let's pick on, I don't know anybody's name. Tell me your name. Lindsay. How would you do a relative frequency histogram? Do the percentages. So you need the total first, right? Do you know a quick and easy way to find the total?
Highlight all of the numbers.
I would say don't highlight all of your data. If you click on home, there's a nice little auto sum button right there. Did I show you that before? I thought I did. Okay. Now, let me just tell you, I always like to put a space in between the total and the data. You don't have to, and you could have done what Lindsay said, and there was nothing wrong with it. But what I found is that people often make mistakes, and if you put an extra line there, a space there, you'll be less likely to make mistakes, okay? All right, so I'm going to remember Paige's name. Do you remember how to do the relative frequency?
The percent of items in each category.
Right, so how do I do that in Excel?
I don't remember the formula.
Okay, what do you always start your formulas with? Equal sign. And I'm going to pick on, what's your name?
Ashley.
Ashley.
So don't you get the first number in your count?
So I'll click on that first one there.
And then you do divide.
Slash for divide.
16 the total.
16.
And enter.
And press enter. Can I copy that formula down?
You have to make an alteration to it
Yeah, because when we copied it down, it didn't work. How come?
because it's dividing it by a different number
It is, okay? So I have to press F4 where?
on the.
On the F11. So if I press the F4 key, it puts those dollar signs in there. Do you remember that page? Were you here last time? Remember it now? No? Okay. All right. This will be on the test. Okay, so now when we copy that down, it will work properly. And it should add up to 1 or 100%, and it does. Nice.
Okay. So
Tell me your name.
Riley.
Riley.
After you get the first one, you click on that, and then what's next? I'm missing that step. You click on the 0 or the.
Okay, so we'll start over. Okay, so you click on the 1,
Okay.
hit the slash, you click on the 16,
Because that's the total.
that's the total, and then you press
F4.
the F4 key, so it puts dollar signs in there. Okay, and now when you copy, it will work. Okay? Okay, we good? Everybody up to speed with me? Brenda? Okay? All right. Okay, so now here's what we want to do for our histogram. Do you guys remember how to make a bar graph? I'm going to pick on Shire because I remember her name. Okay, so before you do insert, you want to highlight your data. We're going to highlight the first two columns, and then you can press insert like Shire said. Press on the bar graph here. Which one do I pick? Top one. I love 3D, right? Oh, I don't love 3D. What'd you say?
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah, we need to fix that too. Put the apostrophe on them all. Maybe that's
I
why.
think it will work.
Maybe that will work. Insert. Click 2D. Oh, that fixed it. Okay, so don't put 9'2. It doesn't know what to do with that. Okay. Is this a histogram? No, it's a bar graph. Okay, here's how we're going to turn this into a histogram. Okay, we're going to go to quick layout, and we're going to click on this one in the middle here where all the bars are touching. Okay, and so now it's almost a histogram if I label it properly, right? So we'll go to quick layout, third row, middle column, click that. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, what should I put down here for my axis title? Would you say shoe size? And this one is? Count, or more descriptive would be number of students. Okay, and what could I put for the title? Huh? Where do they get my data? Math 1040 class. Okay.
So how do you do the title for the bottom for the shoe size?
So you click on the axis title, you just click it once, and then you just start typing.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody good?
So I'm still having trouble doing that. Oh, change it up.
You learned something today, right? I've succeeded. You've all learned something today, right? Okay, so yours, okay, the reason why is because it thinks it doesn't lay out. So I put 6s, I put the counts. Or that'll work. That should work.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, is it all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. I'm going to say that question again because nobody heard it, especially on the video. Okay, she said all groups must be equal sizes. What does that mean? Okay, I can't remember here what I want to do, and this is a long answer to your short question here, but let me see here. I think I have. Let's see if I go. Which class am I in? I'm in the wrong class. If you go into Canvas and you go to the very bottom where it says, oh no, it doesn't have it there. I thought I copied that over, but I didn't apparently. Okay, tell you what, we're just going to make up some data. Let me show you another thing that can happen to you. Okay. Let's pretend that I have a bunch of data. I'm making this data up, but you'll count it yourself, okay? And I have my groups, okay? And I have my count, okay? Now let me show you this. Let's say that I wanted a group from 0 to 5. 0 to 5 looks okay. And then I want to go 6 to 10. Oops. 6-10. Watch what happens here. It thinks that's June 10th. I hate it when that happens. How do I fix that? Apostrophe 6-10. Okay. Now this should actually be 0 to 4. And then 5 to 9. And then 10 to 14. And 11 to, no, not 11, 15 to 19, and then 20 to 24, and then 25 to 29. Okay? So do you see that these are all equally sized groups? Okay? I don't want to have, for example, I don't want to have 0 to 9, and then 10 to 11, oops. And then 12 to 18. I hate that. And then 19. And then 20 to 23. Okay? Do you see, tell me your name again?
Right.
Do you see how those are not equally sized groups?
Yes.
Okay? This is a group of 9, this is a group of 2, this is a group of 6, this is a group of 1, this is a group of 4. Okay? So all of your groups must be equally sized and they can't overlap. So I can't say 10 to 15, 15, oh, I hate this. 10 to 15 and 15 to 20 and 20 to 25. Because what happens with the 15? Where do I put the 15? It's 2 categories, right? Okay, so that's what I mean they can't overlap. This is an example where they overlap. Okay, does that make sense? So these are 2 examples of what you do not want to do. Okay, now let's say that I had, yes?
So how was it the last one that we just did? How was that a histogram, or like previously?
Well, I'm just creating the group. We have to put numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, and here we'll keep going. This is wrong. 25 to 30 and 30 to 35. And I'll make this. Okay. All right. So I've got 3 graphs here. What I want to do now, even though these here, I'll put these for groups here. Groups and count. Groups and count. And I'm going to ask Brenda, since she's a histogram expert now, how do you make a histogram out of that first set of data? Highlight all, and should I include my titles in there?
Yes.
Yes, you should. Okay.
Then go to 2. Oh, insert.
Insert.
And then
You don't see it now? It's there.
you do the bar graph.
You click on the bar graph first. okay? And it's going to be a 2D bar graph.
Okay. And you go to quick layout.
Quick layout. Down to the middle, third row, middle column there, okay? All right. Now I'm going to pick on, tell me your name. Brady. Can you do that again with the second data set, even though it's a crap data set?
Yeah, so you highlight it, then don't you go to data or insert?
Data, insert.
Yeah, insert, go up to the bar, 2D,
2D.
and then you
Oops.
you wanted to do it. No, you want it just like that.
I was just moving it. And then do what?
You want it like that, and then you want to do the title, quick layout,
Quick layout.
and then do the one over to the left. No, that one. Layout 8. Yeah.
Okay. And then just for fun, Paige, can you finish this off? Make me proud.
A histogram,
Uh-huh.
insert, bar graph, 2D, quick layout. And that one.
Okay, well, and of course you need to label them properly. Okay? But what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you we've got a bunch of different types of graphs. Okay? And even though these two are bogus, I kind of created them just for contrast there. But so now one of the questions I'm going to ask you on the test is to describe your graph, and here's what I want to say. Okay? This first graph here that we have is what we would call a bimodal. Okay? Because you can see we've kind of got two humps. We've got a hump here, we've got a hump here, right? Okay? So this would be an example of a bimodal graph.
So like
Two humps, yeah. And in fact, let me stop sharing for a moment. If I were to draw this on the board, what happened to my thing here? Am I not recording this? Oh, there we go. I am, except for this got moved. Okay. All right. So if I have a bimodal, this would be an example of a bimodal, or you could have a trimodal, okay, etc. Okay. Now, of course, what we hope our data is a nice bell curve, right? You could say this is a bell curve, or you could also say it's symmetric. Okay. Now, some other graphs that you might see, something that looks like this. Okay. Always measure it from the peak. This tail is bigger. This would be an example of a left skewed graph. Okay. This would be an example of a right skewed graph. And then you might see something that looks roughly like a rectangle. Okay. This would be what we would call a uniform distribution. Okay. Does that make sense? So when I ask you to describe the graph, I'm looking for one of those 6 terms, generally speaking. Yes.
So for like the review for this exam, I know I'm jumping ahead, but could you do like a study, like paper that like, this is what you need to know. You need to know how to do a histogram on Excel. You need to know how to do this.
Yeah, I've got a formula or a review sheet. Okay. Yes.
This is a little off topic, but why would you do a histogram instead of a bar graph? Does it matter?
Does it matter? Yes, it does matter. A bar graph is used for what kind of data?
Qualitative.
Qualitative. A histogram is used for quantitative. Okay. Now, why is because we sure hope that our graph is a nice bell curve, because most of this class is going to be based on this type of a graph. Okay. And if your data are normal, then we can do a lot of cool statistics. And even if your data is not normal, then we can a lot of times still use the normal distribution. But the idea here is you need to see if your data are normal. If it's not normal, all bets are off. All the techniques that we're going to have are not going to work very well. Okay? So that's why. So the idea here is we want to see, we hope our data looks like this. Okay? All right. So let's go back to some of these graphs that I created, even though they're bad graphs, bad categories, I should say. If I go back to here, okay? So we agreed that this graph was bimodal, okay? Let's go over to here. What would you say about this first graph? This would be left skewed, right? And skewed is with a K. This graph, you would say what? Right skewed. You could say it's almost bell curve, right? Almost bell curve. Okay. But part of that problem is, remember, these are unequally sized groups, so that throws everything off. Okay. What about this graph here? This would be a uniform distribution. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. One more time. You didn't hear anything I said?
Just real quick.
Okay. This is left skewed.
Yes.
This is right skewed, almost bell curve. This one is a uniform distribution. Okay?
So it's called left skew even though it's like to the right?
Yeah, remember we're measuring from the peak, the left tail is bigger.
Okay.
We're measuring from the peak, the right tail is bigger. Okay? And I even drew that on the board. Okay? Always measure it from the peak. Which tail is bigger? Okay? Does that make sense? All right. I need to go back to my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, that was the main thing that I wanted to talk about there. Okay. Let's also talk about, this is, you know what, I'm going to copy some spreadsheets in here. We really need these. Okay. In fact, I'm just going to copy these all here really quickly. Just one second.
You put them in the syllabus.
Put what in the syllabus?
Are you looking for the sheets to pull from?
Oh, they are there. Why didn't I see that before? Okay, go to your in-class worksheets. For some reason, I didn't see those before. Okay. Here, let me start sharing again. I thought I must have copied them, but they're there. Okay, so if you go to Canvas, go to the in-class worksheets down at the bottom, and then we're going to pick on, I think, worksheet 2.2. Hopefully that's the right one. 2.2. So go ahead and open that up. Okay, in fact, we'll do a couple of these. Let's do these. Okay, let's say I had the number of lunch arrivals every 15 minutes. Okay, sometimes I wanted you to see all the data on one screen. Okay, let me show you how to move this. There's two ways to move this. If you highlight all of your data here in the second and the third column, okay, you can press Control X to cut. Notice it does the Las Vegas flashy light thing around the box there. Control X. And then I'm going to click over here and I'm going to press Control V to paste. C, X, and V are all next to each other on your keyboard. C is copy, X is cut, V is paste. Okay? Or you can also, let's say I want to highlight this data here. If you go to a side, it's going to turn into 4 arrows like this. You can click and drag, and then it will work there. Okay? All right, so now let's say, you remember how to sort the data? I'm going to pick on you because I can't remember your name.
Nicole.
Nicole. Remember how to sort the data?
Like in order?
Yeah.
I think it's in home. Oh, yeah.
Data,
Yeah. And then just
the A to Z.
yeah.
You can click that one too, but we'll just click this one. Okay? So this goes from 1 to 11. And I told you I wanted how many categories?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Okay? So what are we going to name our categories?
So
Oh, it's
we could do
We could do 1, 2, 3.
1s and 2s, 3s and 4s, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now there's no 12. Can I stop at 11? No, because it has to be equally sized. But that does give you 6 categories. Okay? All right. So tell me, what's your name? Audrey. So what do I do first here? Apostrophe. Well, let's call these are my groups, right? These are the number of customers. Number of customers that arrive every 15 minutes at lunch. Okay? Apostrophe 1-2, she didn't want that to be January 2nd. Okay? Yeah.
Are we doing like 2 and 3?
Are we doing 2 and 3? No, because we don't want 2 to overlap, right?
Oh, you're right. 3 to 4.
3 to 4. And then 5 to 6. 7 to 8. 10. 11 to 12. Okay? 1s and 2s, if I highlight my data and I can see how many there are, there's 7, right? 3s and 4s, I highlight my 3s and 4s and I've got 5.
How do you do that count button?
It's not a button. But if I do 5s and 6s, highlight the 5s and the 6s here. Okay? And then look right here, it tells you you've got a sum of 101, you've got a count of 18. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay? So I've got 18 here. The 7s and 8s, I've got 7. 9s and 10s, I've got 2. 2 and 1. Okay? Now I'm going to pick on Gage.
Yes.
How do I make my histogram?
Histogram. So just with that data right there.
Yeah, highlighter here.
You're going to go to insert.
Insert.
You're going to go to the bar right there. It's top one, boom. Then you're going to go to quick layout in the top left corner. Click that, and then that one.
Okay? How would you describe this graph? Or if it was labeled properly? Here, let's label it properly. Let's make sure we do. What do I put on the bottom here? Tell me your name. Braden. What do I put on the bottom here?
The bottom would be the number of customers.
Number of customers.
Inside.
Side would be count. That's fine, I guess. And my title is
Number of lunch arrivals.
well, let's call this the distribution of lunch arrivals at Wendy's. Okay? All right, so now, going back to Gage, how would you describe this graph? Yeah.
I would say, just based on that, would you buy?
Yeah, probably bimodal, right? Bimodal, if you wanted to discuss the skew, which way would it be skewed?
Right?
You kind of argue that both ways, couldn't you? Yeah, let's just leave it bimodal.
No,
Okay? All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Brenda?
this is something else that make it so that it's solid. That it does all of them.
Oh. So how do I do these columns here? First of all, you want to highlight both of those. I don't do that one. Number of customers, highlight both of them.
So nice. I want to
Okay. All right. Now, and I'm going to have this video up so you can watch it again. Okay? I know this feels like we're going too fast, but we got to move a little faster. Actually, we're going too slow. Okay, let's talk about a stem and leaf plot here. Okay, let's pretend. Now, back in the old days, I'm going to leave this up here, but you're not going to be able to watch it on the video because I'm going to turn off the sharing here. Okay? Now, back in the old days, before computers, graphs were really hard to make. Okay? I'm going to slide this over so I can see that there. Okay? So, I'm going to erase this.
Okay, never mind. Come on.
Okay? And so one easy way to create a kind of a text histogram is to create what we call a stem and leaf plot. Okay? And so the idea is you're going to draw a line down here. Now, the data that I have here goes from 15 to about 32. Okay? Do you see that on my spreadsheet? I know you can't see it at home, but it's on my spreadsheet that I just showed. Okay? So the idea here is technically they want you to sort it. I don't care if you sort it. Okay? This is the back of the old days before computers. Apparently some statisticians teach this, so I don't know why. But do you see that first number is 24? Okay? So I'm going to put a 24. Actually, we got 10s, 20s, and 30s. Okay? So you refer to this as the stem, and these are the leaves.
Should we be writing this down with you?
Yeah. Okay? So the first number I have is 24. So I'm going to put a 2 and then a 4 in the next column. Okay? The next number I have is a 15. So this is a 15. Okay? The next number I have is a 26. So I'm going to put a 6 here for 26. The next number I have is a 24 and a 26. And then I have another 26. And I have a 30. And I have a 31. And a 31 and a 25.
23,
23,
22,
22,
31,
31,
and 32.
32. Okay? Now, if you turn your head sideways, that kind of looks like a histogram, right? Now, just for fun, what if I had a 55? Okay, how would you represent the 55 on here?
You'd have to put a
You'd have to put a 40 first, right? And then a 55. Okay? So you can kind of look at this. If this is a histogram, okay, and this is where the peak is, right? Is this right skewed or is it left skewed?
Right.
It's right skewed. You could maybe, this might be an outlier though, but you could maybe argue that that's bimodal, but I'd probably go with right skewed there because there's only one of those there. And we'll talk in a future thing. We'll wonder: is this an outlier? Possibly, possibly not. I already forgot your name.
Lindsay.
Lindsay.
So if you just have the 10s, 20s, 30s, would it still be considered a bell curve even though it's not symmetrical?
Well, no. Let's ignore this for a minute. Would that be a bell curve? It'd probably still be right skewed in this case,
Does it
right?
have to be exactly symmetrical or just?
No, it doesn't have to be exactly, but you can see that we've got 5 of those versus 1 of those. So there's definitely more data on this side. So I'd still call that right skewed. Okay? Okay. And your data will never be perfectly symmetric. It'll be close, but yeah. Okay? So that's a stem and leaf plot. Now, to be honest, I could kind of show you how to do this on the computer, but this is more likely to do something on the paper, but I'll show you how to do this on the computer just for fun. So if I go back here, okay, so I've got 10s, 20s, and 30s, okay. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to add a right border here, okay. Now I've got a line there. So 24, 15, 26, 24, 26, 26, 30.
How did you add that one? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
can you tell that one more time?
So highlight these 3 cells here.
Right.
If you click on this arrow here, you can put all these different borders on here. I want a right border. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to do that there. But anyway, okay. 30, 31, 31, 25, 23, 22, 31, and 32. Now, do you see how there's a big gap there? It'd be nice to get rid of that gap, wouldn't it? Okay. If you highlight columns E through M like this, in this case, go in between any 2 columns like K and L. Notice it changes into, see how it changes? Oh, I got an arrow, I got this, I got that. Everything changes depending on where I go. If I go in between K and L, I should have a line with 2 arrows, okay? If you double click, it will resize all of them so that they're closer together. Okay? So we would still say this is skewed which way? Right skewed. Supposed to have a dash on equals. Okay? Does that make sense? Is there anything else I want to cover on here? Have we talked about a line graph? We talked about that last time. Do you know how to create a line graph?
No.
Okay. Let's add a thing. Now, by the way, on your test, probably in a week or 2, we'll probably have a test. Okay?
On this?
On all of this stuff. So we will have an in-class test back in our regular classroom. I'm going to see. We're going to try to get one of these again. Hopefully we can get them. In about 2 weeks, we'll have another test. But the test will be 2 parts. There'll be an in-class portion, and then there will be a part at the testing center. Okay? The in-class portion will be kind of like your quizzes, a little multiple choice, a little show your work, explain, this kind of a thing. And then the computer part, you can spend as much time as you want. But don't get there a half hour before close and then be like, they only gave me a half hour. Okay? If you want to spend 8 hours on there, get there at 10 in the morning. Okay? You can spend as much time as you want. Now, a couple things that I just want to mention. There's going to be a bunch of different tabs here. Okay? Make sure that you look at all of the problems. Don't do the first problem and say, wow, that was short and done. Because it'll happen to somebody. It happens every year on the first test. Somebody will only do problem. The other issue is people will upload a blank test. Okay, here's what I would recommend that you do. When you get done with your test, save it with your name. Call it your name. You know, Sam Smith or whatever your name is. Okay? And then upload that file called Sam Smith. Okay? Now, just so you know, in the testing center, they wipe all the computers every night. And so if you say, oh, I uploaded the blank test, I'm going to have to give you 0 because it won't be there on that computer the next day. They wipe the hard drive every night. Okay? So, 2 mistakes. Don't do only 1 problem. Don't upload a blank test. I can only grade what you submit. Okay? You do get to drop 1 test, but you probably don't want it. The first one's the easy test. They only get harder after that. Okay? Yes, question.
Will we have a review to know what we need to review for the test? Like a review sheet?
Well, you need to review chapters 1, chapter 2, 8, 9, and 10 at least. We'll probably spend 2 days on chapter 2. Okay? So, yeah, we'll probably do that next time. Yes?
Can we expect the test to be really similar to what we've had on our quizzes?
The written part will be very similar to your quizzes. I haven't given you a computer test, so that'll be a little different. But your computer test is going to be a lot of graphing. It's going to be the harder calculations. By the way, you can't bring a calculator. You can use a calculator on the written test, but you can't use your calculator on the computer test. I want you to use Excel. It's the best calculator you'll ever have in your life. It's awesome. Okay? And like I said before, I've used Excel with every job I've ever had. It's a really useful skill, okay? Other questions? Okay, one other thing that I would like to do. I don't think let me see if I did this. I'm going to have you guys, let's see the projects, did I not? I can't remember if this is not published yet. Oh, this is 218, this is the wrong one. Okay, well, this is what I use. This is not going to be the exact assignment, but it's going to be very similar to this, okay? And I will publish this properly in a minute, okay? So here's what I'd like to do. I want you to give me the first and last names of your group members, okay? You can have up to 5. 3 to 5 is best, okay? The last semester I asked people about Mitt Romney and Jenny Wilson. This year we're going to talk about should Donald Trump get a primary challenger, okay? I'll put the exact question there, and that's what I want you to use, okay? I'm going to keep this part here, okay? You can pick one of these two projects. This is also part of your project. I want you to pick either a 5-pound or a 10-pound bag of potatoes at the store, and you don't have to buy them, but I would like you to get a minimum of 30 bags. I want you to weigh 30 bags of potatoes, okay? And I don't care if it's 5 pounds or 10 pounds. But I want you to, and don't pick just one store, pick a few different stores, but I want a minimum of 30 bags. And what we want to do is we want to determine if they're cheating you. Are the bags less than 5 pounds, more than 5 pounds? Okay, or whatever size bag. I don't care what the size bag is, but whatever it is, pick that same size bag.
Is it 30 pounds? The 30 bags you're saying you're collecting?
30 pounds.
So go to Smith's, go to Albertsons,
So like
go
a couple
to
from each
Fresh
store,
Market.
or 30 bags at each store?
30 bags total.
Okay.
So
That's like
5 or 6 bags at 5 or 6 stores. Okay. So you can choose if you want to do that, or if you want to go to a school zone where there's a digital display, you can sit there, and I want you to collect a minimum of 30 cars, and I want you to compare the actual speed versus their speed limit.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Okay. So just go anywhere you want. So you can either do either one of those. Just pick one or the other. Okay. I also want you to compare the color distribution of 2 types of candy, such as plain versus peanut M&Ms or Skittles or whatever kind of candy that you want. Okay. I do not want you to use fun size bags. They have to be big bags. Okay. So I would say at least 10 ounces or larger. Okay. You only need to get 2 bags. Okay, so peanut M&Ms, plain M&Ms, or something like that. A minimum of 10-ounce bags. Okay, and I want you to count the number of reds, the number of greens, the number of yellows, etc. The data collection on that is very easy for both bags. And we're going to see if there's a difference in the color distribution for the plain versus the peanut, or the sugar-free versus the regular, or whatever. I don't care what they are. Okay, you can use Skittles. You could even use Reese's Pieces, I guess, but that's going to be more boring because they've only got 3 colors. Question?
So are we doing this as a group or individual?
So you're going to do this as a group. Okay. So now remember that the skills that we're learning today and next week, such as histograms, bar graphs, pie graphs, okay, you need to use the proper graph for what you're doing. Okay, so you've got a group there. 2 minds are usually better than 1. But you should include frequency tables, bar graphs, pie graphs, histograms if they apply, that sort of a thing. I'm only going to need 1 PowerPoint per group. Okay. Once you tell me who your group members on, I will create groups, and then when you submit it, I will know. You should know when so-and-so submits it. If they haven't submitted, just submit it yourself. Okay. Now remember, this is a semester-long project. If you want to start collecting data, you can. And I'm going to include the link for the question that we're going to ask. So this part 1 is going to change from what I have here, but parts 2 and 3 are going to stay the same. Okay. Also, I know some of you are flaky, and I'm sorry if you have flaky people in your group. There's always some in every group. No, not always. Sometimes you have a group of 5 people that work awesome together. So hopefully you're in there. Obviously, you're not going to turn it in by November 26th. That'll be too late. I'll fix that date. But you need to grade each other on your participation. And this will be roughly the breakdown. 30% is going to be group participation, 50% is your final PowerPoint, and 20% is going to be your presentation to class. We're going to use this data for all of the skills that we have. So if you want to go ahead and, well, don't start, you can start collecting either the speed limit or the 5-pound bag and the Skittles or the M&Ms. You can do that now. Do not ask anybody about the poll question because I need to get IRB approval for that. I am also going to post a thing for IRB approval. We'll talk about that next time. But if you want to start doing that, I will update this. So I'll have you have that done probably within a few days. If you're not in a group, stick around for a minute and get in the group right away, okay? All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
So our
Or
homework
next
is
time.
on what?
Say it again?
Okay, never mind, finishing the rest of last time.